All right, super excited to be here. I'll talk about entity resolution, which Gleb has just introduced. I'm Sonal. I'm the co-founder at Zingg. Prior to founding Zingg, I was running a data consultancy where I saw firsthand how data silos and lack of a clear understanding of core business entities would lead to businesses losing out opportunities to increase their revenue, be compliant, and reduce costs. So essentially, entity resolution or identity resolution is a technique or a set of techniques that enables you to look at the data and unify your records and say that these records coming from different sources or through the same source with variations actually refer to the same individual or to the same entity. Generally, when we talk about people, we call it identity resolution. And when we talk about other entities like suppliers or addresses, it is termed as entity resolution. Now, it's, like we want to unify this data, but the problem is that this is not a very easy to kind of solve problem. When we look at the data and the kind of variations that our data generally has, it gets very tough to define the matching rules on how different records which belong to the same individual or to the same entity can actually be matches. On top of that, it is also a scalability problem because there are no unique identifiers by which we can do the comparisons and join those records. So if we look at 10,000 records, it's essentially comparing every record with every other record. And as we increase the number of records, a tenfold increase in the number of input increases the number of comparisons 100-fold. So essentially, we run into a Cartesian join problem, which becomes very difficult to scale. So that is what we are solving at Zingg. Pretty excited about this. We have a mix of techniques, machine learning, graph technologies, and distributed computing, through which an ML-based engine learns on your data. You can train it on your data to help it to scale out to millions of records easily and run it on either a private cloud or on a public cloud like AWS or GCP. So Zingg is open source, and some of the core things that we do that the open source provides is active learning through training on user data set. So there's no data leakage across different deployments or across different users. You can deploy it and train it on your own data by answering a few yes/no questions. There is a Python API as well as a command line execution through a JSON file if you prefer to do a configuration. And you can run it on any private or public cloud or a private or a Spark cluster of your choice. Zingg also connects with any input or output warehouse, database or data lake. So any RDBMS, any Parquet, Avro, JSON, XML file formats, TSV, CSV, as well as any warehouses like Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, etc. Zingg can connect to the open source APIs. Now, I talked about the machine learning part and training on your own data. So it's as simple as defining what are the fields on which you want to run the matching on and answering a few questions on whether these are matches or non-matches. Based on the user input, Zingg learns the similarity rules and how best to group them together so that it can scale to millions of records. And once we have a trained model, Zingg comes out with the cluster IDs. And if you look at this, the row second and third, which are duplicates and belong to the same person, share the same cluster ID. We also provide the matching probabilities of how close these records are to each other. So one common deployment pattern that we see is that Zingg is run on extracted and staged data directly and natively on the warehouse or the lake. So on top of the open source that we have released, we are also working on the Zingg Enterprise version. The prime thing that we are releasing as part of the enterprise is a Snowflake native product, which doesn't need a separate Spark instance, and it can run natively within Snowflake. We are also providing pluggable matching and blocking functions so that you can improve the precision and recall, and a lot of other cool things like semantic matching, unstructured text, as well as managing the entire workflow of the matches to maybe override what Zingg has predicted and to take care of the subsequent workflow. So in terms of applications, entity resolution is a very common problem. And as part of our open source, we see a variety of applications with people solving through entity resolution. There are a lot of applications in anti-money laundering and know your customer. In insurance, there's building out a unified view of the policyholder and assessing risk. And customer 360 and composable CDPs. When you have mergers and acquisitions and you want to unify the data across different systems, entity resolution and technologies like Zingg get used there. Spend analytics, supplier mastering, as well as product matching. So this is pretty much what I wanted to cover today. Zingg is open source, and I would really urge you to try it out and give us feedback. If you have any further questions or if you want to discuss, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sonal. We just completed our migration to Salesforce from HubSpot, and even at our small-ish scale, entity resolution is a no easy task. And definitely coming from large companies, I can see how this could be immensely useful to unify different data sources. So yeah, I'm very excited to try Zingg open source. Thanks for sharing.
I hope you do, and let us know if you have any feedback, Gleb.
Yeah, absolutely.